Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, the host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show and thanks for listening. Before we jump into today's show, I want to take a quick moment to invite all you dads who are listening right now and who are kind of ready to start taking action on reclaiming your health and your fitness and working towards becoming a better father, a better man, to join our online community. And the best way to do that right now is to head over to Facebook and apply to our private group. It's the Fit Dad Basecamp, which is facebook.com/groups/Fit Dad Basecamp. So my guest today, a very interesting guy with quite a story. His name is Ruari Fairbairns, and he started something called the 1 Year No Beer Challenge. And I'd heard about this in a couple of other groups that I belong to, and to be honest, it didn't really resonate with me, mainly because I'm not a drinker. So I started looking a little more at the program and listening to some of his work, and I realized that not only has he helped tens of thousands of people across the world, but this challenge runs so much deeper than just avoiding alcohol. So, I mean, it affects so many other aspects of people's lives, from relationships to health, quality of life. And so the more I read, the more I learned about him and what he's doing, the more I realized that I wanted to talk to him because I have just so many questions. So I'm really looking forward to this. And Ruari, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here.
You bet. So, before we get into some of the questions that I have and about you and your challenge, maybe you could just share a little bit about your backstory.
Absolutely. So to put everybody in the picture, I was originally born on the west coast of Scotland, a small island, and like many places in the world, drinking is part of the culture up there. And so like all of us really witnessed aunties, uncles, friends celebrate, commiserate, and congratulate with alcohol. I think the first time I ever got drunk, I was 12 years old. I'd gone into high school and felt this peer pressure from new friends that I hadn't ever had alcohol before, and managed to convince this poor girl from the local village to support me while I drank a concoction of whiskey and port, because I thought that whiskey was mixed with something dark coloured. And I was extremely ill, which my parents had the pleasure of coming home to after their anniversary dinner. Extremely ill from both ends. Let's move on. And that didn't deter me. In the 20s, I was party boy. And worked extremely hard. By the time I was 25, I'd set up 5 different companies. I set up my first company when I was 15 years old, determined to make an impact on the world. And it wasn't until through the TV program The Apprentice, which is another story, I started work as an oil broker in central London. And really, for me, that's when two worlds collided. The more I partied, the more successful I became at the job. Entertaining was just part of it, like many city jobs like that, I guess. And winding it over a few years, I was a very successful oil broker, and it was starting to wear a bit thin. I met my wife, we got married, and she was like, look, I don't know if I'm happy with you coming home at 4:00 in the morning and falling asleep on the porch because you can't find your key and stinking, you drunken idiot. But she put up with it because it was part of the job and blah-de-blah-de-blah and all these excuses. And in the back of my mind somewhere, I kept thinking, I think alcohol's holding me back. Now, in reality, I wasn't a problem drinker. I never considered myself having a drink problem. I didn't come home and finish drinking. I didn't start and then never be able to stop. I was just party boy, right? I just loved it. So when I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a break from booze, and there were lots of things going on in my life. I mean, if you look at the things that were happening, I'd been suffering from IBS for 5 years, and unable to sort out what my diet was. I'd been in and out of depression and talking to a counsellor. I'd skin problems, flaky skin, borderline eczema. There were all of these little things which I never attributed to alcohol. one never does. Alcohol is the fruit of all fun and success. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a break from booze. Against huge peer pressure. In fact, my boss told me I was committing commercial suicide. Now, I had gone and built a desk into the number one desk in a market which was massively overbroked in under 3 years. So rightly, he was precious about this business that I generated. You know what? In the first year of being alcohol free, I grew that business by another 50%. I reduced my cost by 30%. I turned around to my boss and I was like, holy crap, could you imagine if you had those stats across the board instead of having drunken idiots every Thursday and Friday? So anyway, I'm getting there and I'm stealing the show here. But really, when I took that break of 90 days, I was absolutely blown away with how much life started to improve. I just felt so much happier and healthier. And I was like, wow, my brain switched on again. I was like, this is amazing. It was literally like a mix of the two movies, The Matrix, stepping out into the Matrix, and the film Limitless, right? But instead of taking a pill, I just stopped taking a drug. So I got together with another oil broker, and we used to be thick as thieves together. Like Friday night on the Curry House, I would be, Friday afternoon, I should say, not night. I'd be at home talking to the missus on a Friday night. No. Friday afternoon in the Curry House. I would be topping up people's pint glasses with either vodka or champagne. Andy would be showing people magic tricks. And he'd gone off and set up his own broking firm. And we got together and he'd just done 6 months alcohol free. And I was like, this is amazing. We got together and we were just like, the upgrade you get from removing booze is massive. How do we get other people to realize this? And that is where we sat down and started thinking, you know what? Everybody loves a challenge. What we've got to do is basically, nobody wants to give up alcohol. It's the most unsexy thing on the planet. Why would I ever want to do that? But everyone wants the benefits of taking a break from booze. And that's where 1 Year No Beer was born.
Wow. So Andy, this guy Andy, he's your business partner now? So he also left. Okay, so he left the brokerage field too. Okay. Wow, that's neat. So, it's amazing to me because when you visit your website, it's one page and it basically talks about 1 year without beer, and it gives you a couple different options for challenges. Right, everything is run through either a 28, 90, or a 365-day challenge, and it's simple, right? I mean, the concept is simple, but it's not. I mean, it's so powerful because you're affecting so many people across the world. I mean, it blew me away with your numbers. And, I want to hear, why is this small movement? I mean, it started as a small movement, a small challenge, a simple challenge. Why is it so huge? I mean, why are you everywhere?
Okay. Well, let's take about some of those things you've just mentioned there. When you talk about simple, the reality is that we came into an age-old problem with an incredibly fresh perspective. Andy'd studied a master in positive psychology. He'd become a mindfulness practitioner and studied NLP. I'd been, since 12 years old, the first book I ever read front to back was What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter. And from then on, all I ever read was self-help books. And I'd been very much in that positive psychology framework and understanding. So we took this challenge and applied what our experiences were and the positive psychology part of it. And what effectively happened is we realized by getting people to think about, instead of deprivation, which is where everybody needs to get to, why would you ever stop drinking unless you've got a problem? That's the first thing, right? And even when you take a break from booze, people go, oh, I didn't realize you had a problem. Like, they can't comprehend why you would not want to pour a poison down you, you know what I mean, right? So they can't comprehend that. So we had to create this thing to get people to awaken it up. The second thing is that we've really realized that this is not about alcohol at all. Okay, we use the 28-day challenge purely as a vehicle to get people to do the 90-day challenge, and the 90-day challenge is really what most people will have their epiphany. Their epiphany is when alcohol comes out sometime between 40 and 60 days. And what they've done during the whole period is, instead of what you might do when you take an alcohol-free, quite popular over in the UK is things like Dry January and raise money for charity. Now, here's what happens when you do that. I'm going to try and raise money for charity by doing this really, really, really difficult thing of not pouring a poison down my throat for a month. Oh my gosh, can you give me money? Right, what am I saying to everyone? I'm saying to somebody that I need it and this is a really tough challenge. No, it's not, okay? First of all, you don't need it. It's actually really, so it's a different mindset shift. The second thing people do is they go, I need to avoid all my social circle. I'm not going to call them in friends because I'm basically going to be a social hermit. Who would want to hang out with me if I'm not drinking? Right, now you're going against something very strong and innate, and that's called tribalism. We all need to feel the belonging. If you don't feel belonging, you will go back to your habits where the belonging you feel. And that's why we created a global tribe, because it gives you that sense of belonging whilst you're making the transition. The third thing people do is they go, I can't wait till Feb the 1st because I can go out and get absolutely shit-faced again. Well, now all you're doing is telling your brain that it's something that you need and you miss and you enjoy. What is the point of that? So we created a program which helps you realize that you don't need it. You don't need it to have fun. You don't need it to be successful. And you don't need to be triggered by the tribe and be fearful of that. You know, I think a huge proportion, and we did some research over here in the UK, and it made every single paper nationally. We were over 300 radio stations. I was on the TV because we did an analysis of peer pressure. And it was amazing to see that most people feel peer pressure from friends, and a very high percentage. You know, the whole of society is keeping people drinking. And if we can help people, and I think that's where we get to a tipping point with a program like this, we build a community, we build up that education, and then we reach a tipping point where people suddenly turn around and go, why was I doing that to myself?
Man. Yeah. So there's a few questions in there I have, and it's kind of funny because when I go out with friends, most of the people I hang out with are in their 40s, they have kids, and I'm kind of known as the fitness guy, and they don't really expect me to drink, but I still feel like an outcast because everybody has a beer in their hand. So I'll typically have a beer or two, and without fail, I wake up the next day, I feel like shit. I mean, I'm definitely a cheap date here, but so I just don't like how I feel. But what's interesting to me is this isn't about just abstaining from alcohol for a set period of time, right? And it's kind of like, for me, it's the people that I see that say they want to give up soda, or they want to give up Big Macs or whatever it is. The desire is there. Nobody wants to be hooked on soda. Nobody wants to be eating McDonald's every night or every week. But, they have the desire, but the framework for change isn't there. And so before long, they end up right back in the drive-thru or some kind of stressful event or a trigger, like, a social outing, a football game, whatever. Then it's back, right? And so I imagine it's something very similar with what you do is, you've created a structure, a framework to allow people to succeed instead of falling back into the habits or succumbing to, like you said, peer pressure, because it's so powerful. And the power of tribes, like you said, is enormous. I mean, enormous.
So one of the biggest things, as an example, is that slip-ups happen, right? We're not going to take some chip off you and force you go back to the first stage. It's part of process and learning. Like, think about the robot Hoover that comes into your house for the first time, right? It's literally got to go around and bang on every single wall until it works out all the no's, and then eventually it gets the right map. Sometimes our learning takes a while. You need to go and slip up. You need to have those 2 beers with friends, and that pain in the morning needs to keep growing for you so it's strong enough that when you get that evening before, you go, I'm not even going there anymore. And that's part of your process of change, as well as anyone else who's listening out there is like, I tried that challenge and I slipped up halfway, so I just carried on drinking. No, don't do that. You're on a journey of discussion. So not penalizing people for tripping up is a big element. And I think when you talk about what the program does for people, if you check our Instagram out, so it's instagram.com/1 year no beer, you'll see our transformations. And we're talking about people losing 4 stone, finally setting up that business, starting a new hobby, getting the relationship back with their wife, partner, sibling, or child. It is the keystone habit. Like, we strongly believe and are seeing and proving that if you unlock the key to this alcohol thing, the other door's all open. And while alcohol is allowed to be a prevalent part of your life, the other doors are so much harder to do. Like, how hard is it to get yourself up and exercise when you've got a hangover? How hard is it to meditate or do all these bits and pieces that you want to do that think will help you in your life? They don't. They get crushed. And so when you remove the alcohol, you're given energy, you're given passion, you're given all these things that you want to go and deal with life properly. And I think that's the biggest part of this whole thing, is that we teach people how to hit life head on, because underneath all of this, there's a reason why people are drinking, right? We're talking about traumatic experience in life, hurt, pain, boredom, lack of meaning and purpose. That was me. I was doing a job which I hated, and it came out in a sort of sickness of looking for addictive behaviors. And getting clear on who I am and what I want has led me to totally transform my life. I mean, I live now 10 minutes from 10 beaches. I pick up my daughters most days, or a couple of times from a week from school. It's like the most important and treasured time for me. We're out at the beach even when it's cold up here in Scotland, or running up on the law. That stuff makes my soul absolutely happy to the core. And I was chasing dollars and miserable in the city, and I didn't realize it. I was using alcohol to numb myself. Yeah,
for sure. And so the people that are listening may be saying, that's not me. I just have, a beer, maybe a couple beers a night, or I have a few on the weekends with the game. But you're not. I mean, this isn't about helping alcoholics, right? This is for regular social drinkers. So that's a vast majority of people, like, dads. I mean, that's what we do, right? We drink, we have some beers. What's that?
2.7 billion people.
So if you're thinking, this isn't for me, this is for someone who has a problem. This is not for people that have problems. It's for people that are drinkers. So
so in that bit, and this is key. First of all, if you are sitting here listening right now and saying, that's not me, I only drink occasionally, then I challenge you. If it's easy, go and do it. Because all I'm saying to you is, I guarantee you that you will feel an upgrade if you do the 90-day challenge. And if there's an upgrade that you're missing in your life, why don't you want it? And maybe that upgrade is the one little key that's going to unlock that health issue, or that back pain, or that stress, or all those things. That could be one thing. So why not just try it? That's the first thing I'm going to say, if it's easy for you. And the second thing is, most people who come and try a challenge, all different types of drinkers, as I mentioned, they go through an epiphany between 40 and 60 days, and that really is the wake-up call for people. If it's something that you can easily do, then if the one thing you get from this podcast is, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to learn how to live. I'm going to learn how to remove alcohol from my life for a period and not feel deprivation. That's the challenge I put down, and see what life is like. Now, the other thing that's really key is, this is not an abstinence-only program. So I drink alcohol. I drink as much as I want, whenever I want. It's fantastic, right? I just choose not to drink it most of the time. Now, that might mean I might go away for a weekend and binge drink, but I know I'm going to be dog shit, excuse my French, for a week or 2 weeks. I'm going to be a grumpy, miserable dad, not a good husband. I'm going to be not so focused at work, all of those things. The reality is I almost never do that. What I love doing is going out and testing myself. And I was at a wedding recently. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd had a glass and a half of wine at the dinner at the wedding. It was out in Spain. And some friends who were staying at the villa I was staying at just came up. They were smashed to bits, tapped me on the shoulder. I'm on the dance floor now, only wearing my kilt. All other clothing has been removed. And they're like, Ruari, please, can we go home now? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll drive you home. So I just don't need it. And the one thing when people say to me, well, I have social anxiety and I feel it. No, alcohol causes your anxiety. Alcohol is causing your social anxiety. My question to you is, did you need alcohol when you were 12 years old to be sociable in the playground? No, you didn't. So it's about unlearning the bullshit that you've been taught to think over your whole life.
I would imagine that something you come up against often is someone saying, why would I do this? Like, I don't need to take this challenge because it's not an issue. I'm fun. I'm just unwinding. It's not affecting any part of my life. So I'm sure a part of it is educating. Like, this actually, these are the stats. And I just want to read your stats that are on your website, where it says 92% of people said they were happier. 73% said they were dramatically had better sleep. 73% lost weight, and 74% had reduced anxiety. I mean, those numbers are staggering. Yeah.
Massive.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's the hidden thing, and the problem is, it doesn't matter how many times I said to it. It wouldn't have mattered how many times you said to me 6 months prior to me giving up alcohol. If you told me, Ruari, give up alcohol, I'd have told you to. Because I was like, what? Why would I do that? It's my source of income and everything else. But the reality is, I never understood it until I experienced it myself. So that's all I can say to people. You do not know who you are until you've removed it. And it just niggles away, niggles, and it drives you down. It is your anxiety. It is your busy head. It is your inability to meditate because you've tried 5 times before, but your head is so noisy. It is your, that it is those things, but those things will not go away or change until you try this challenge. That's the only way we can say it, really.
I mean, this isn't about willpower, right? Because willpower comes and goes. I mean, most of this country, the U.S., most of the country is overweight, right? If not just obese. I mean, there's 35% obesity rates. I don't know what it is in Scotland. But it's not working. Willpower doesn't work. We're over marketed to, obviously. And again, I don't know how it is out there if everything you see when you're driving down the street on television is geared towards selling you some product that's not healthy for you. But it just doesn't work here. So the power of accountability and the power of having a group of like-minded people, a tribe, it's invaluable. And I read a stat that you said that 87% of the people that go through your first 28-day challenge end up going on to the 90 days. So, there's something in there that just makes people click. Like, you know what? I can do this. And that number is astounding. I mean, if you're a stats guy, like with conversion rates and all those things that are associated with online marketing, that number is crazy. Huge.
The number, sorry, just to make sure we're on the same page, 87% of people who reach 90 days choose to carry on alcohol-free.
Oh, okay. Okay. You're right. Okay. Yes. All right. Okay. And that's just that's even more impressive. That's even more impressive than what I just said.
Yeah. People are, why would I, most people come and sign up for a 28-day program. I think, so most people come and sign up for a 28-day program. They inevitably go on to the 90. And what's amazing is that people want to carry on when they didn't think they could do 28 days in the first place. And that's exactly what you're saying. If you're using willpower, you're doing it wrong.
That's a good point. So here's the big question. And as a fitness guy, I'm up against a number of things and excuses and people's hurdles and struggles. If you can get somebody to get into a mind frame to make this type of change with these type of success rates, what can your model be applied to? I mean, if you can apply what you've done to the weight loss industry or whatever the issue is health related, I mean, that's mind-boggling to think of what that could do.
That's exactly where we're going. So we've built a habit change model which helps people change bad habits. We already run sugar programs. We can turn this to gambling and sex addiction and drugs, all of those things. So our next stage now, we're just going through Series A funding as we speak. Is to improve our technology. Our technology is very basic, although it works. And that will include the launch of an app which integrates all with your existing data, tracks and shows you over time how you've improved. Imagine, really we focus on how do we break through that peer pressure because it's such a key thing and keeps people drinking. And when you're able to show people in data how you've performed over the last 28 days in terms of resting heart rate, blood pressure drop, but not just that, calories saved and cash saved. Cash saved is a big one. Very soon when you land on our site, there'll be a small slider which asks you what kind of drinker you are, and that will show you how much you'll save. For most people, it's high hundreds, if not thousands of pounds in coming in to do something like the 90-day challenge, especially if you start adding things in like kebabs and taxis and shit food that you eat the next day. So the cost of drinking is massive. And that's why we get people climbing at Everest and starting businesses and doing all that, buying a new car with the money that they've saved just from this habit. So just to go back to your point, We've done quite a lot of research with Stirling University, and we will continue to do that. And we are looking at building out a model, which I won't go into much deep further. It's just citing developments of it, where there is currently very little research. And it's incredibly exciting to be able to map addictive behaviors and then give an intervention that is completely bespoke depending on what type of person you are. And when we reach that kind of level, then it's going to be really exciting to see these kind of success rates improve even more.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't wait to hear more about that stuff. And you mentioned the cost of this, and it's funny because I grew up with a single mother, just my brother and I, and she didn't have a lot of money, but she was a smoker, and she smoked a lot. Let's say a pack a day for, I figured it to be probably about 45 years before she passed away. And I did a little calculator I found online and estimated what she probably spent in her lifetime somewhere, and it was like $82,000, something crazy, just on cigarettes. And she was living paycheck to paycheck, and so obviously you've seen what that's like with drinking. Oh, it's just a 6-pack here, it's just a 12-pack here, a bottle of wine here. But yeah, you add that up and it's thousands and thousands of dollars, and most people are living beyond their means already. So the savings can be applied to something else. It's just it's a win-win.
Absolutely, totally win-win. And when I think the key with a lot of these things is awareness. Getting awareness. There's an element of me which also feels very strongly that the alcohol has been the dumbing of the masses for a long time, it was the dumbing of the masses for a long time. I'm not into prohibition. I'm not into taking somebody for that. I'm not that into even the overuse of health scare. Like, honestly, every time I pick up the paper, I'm finding out that my trainers are giving me cancer. It's just like, it's everywhere. That is just noise. Forget that. Let's just talk about being peak performance. Like, do you want to be peak performance? Yeah. Do you want to be the best you can be? Do you want to be the best dad? Do you want to be better at work, faster, fitter, healthier, happier? Do you want to be a better husband? Yeah, cool. Right. Well, what's that worth to you? Is it worth to you, 50 quid a month, 100 quid over 3 months? Yeah, of course it is. Sorry, dollars. So it's worth 10 times that. And that's what most people say when they post about our challenge. And you can see that on all of our social media channels and the testimonials. We put a lot of before and afters and testimonials. So don't hear what I'm saying. Just go and check out the social media. That's what people say. I'd have paid 10 times, 100 times what I had to pay. I spoke to somebody who's hopefully going to be one of our lead investors. And he said, Ruari, I grew my business to 27 million last year. I'm 55 years old. And out of every investment I've ever made, the best investment was the £109 I gave 1 year no beer.
Wow.
Amazing.
I'm struggling here to maintain focus because my mind is racing so much about the potential within what I do, given what you're doing. So let me ask you this. So one of the biggest, so I spend a lot of time on social media. It's kind of nature of the business with what I do. And kind of the hot thing or the trending thing is talking about moderation, and there are no good foods, there are no bad foods, they're just food, and that you could eat anything you want, just not a whole lot of it. And so how does that work in your challenge? Like, or what are your thoughts on moderation? Like, because obviously moderation doesn't work. Okay, well, you can have Pop-Tarts all day long, just be, any day you want, just be moderate about it, but that leads to something else. It leads to 2 Pop-Tarts, it leads to a box of Pop-Tarts. So it doesn't work for most people, obviously, because of the numbers are nuts as far as people being overweight. What are your thoughts on moderation and that approach now, not afterwards, like what you're doing?
Totally, but twofold. So first of all, if you ask Andy, my co-founder, he doesn't drink, never wants to drink again, sees no part in it. And therefore, he says for most people, moderation probably isn't possible. Second thing is we don't use the term moderation. Moderation sounds like you're trying to control something. There is no control for me. Although that's the wrong way around because now I'm going to call it total control. So that doesn't work. But you know what I mean. The closest thing I can call it is total control because I just don't feel that desire. Yeah, sure. When I'm out sometimes, the lads, I'll be like, oh, FOMO for a few seconds, but that only lasts the first drink max, and then you move on. So I think that this level of control. What I want to say is, I strongly believe personally that anyone on the planet can control their alcohol intake and choose to take it or not. Now, Andy would be sitting here right beside it and say, well, I don't necessarily agree with that because I think the way society is today. And this is my key point. It's mostly about environment. Like right now, alcohol is absolutely everywhere. But let's wind forward 15 years. Government has ripped alcohol out of it completely. There are no longer stores nearby. Nobody really drinks. It's happened the same thing as cigarettes. In fact, if you drink alcohol, you're almost an outcast. Now, let's say that you go to a party and in order to get more alcohol, you have to drive 3-4 miles and go somewhere illegal where you might be caught on CCTV to get this alcohol. The question is then, with all of those things going on around you, none of your friends drink, they're healthy and happy, and they're having so much fun without booze. They're like, yeah, this is amazing. We have so much fun. Would you be sitting there drinking and gasping? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. And I'm confident of that for most people. So I have a bit of a contrarian view, and I know it upsets a lot of people. I know it upsets a lot of old models. Great. But I strongly believe that anybody can control their alcohol intake. And I will reference a semi-flawed piece of science to do that, and that is Rat Park. For those of you who don't know what Rat Park is, originally they put rats in a cage and they gave it water and alcohol, and the rat would hit the water, hit the alcohol, and then smash itself to pieces and die from the amount of alcohol. And they went, alcohol's addictive. There you go. We've given it to rats. They are addicted. We must be really careful. So another super clever dude, and I should really know names, but I'm not a science boffin. So another super clever dude came and he created Rat Park, massive cage, loads of rats in it, loads of things to do, spinny things, up, down things, play, toys, everything. Now put water and alcohol in it. Every single rat touches the alcohol and never touches it again. And that's because they have community, they have connection, they have purpose, fun, all of those things around. And so that is what I strongly believe about alcohol. Maybe it's a planet much further down the track, but I know that my addictive tendencies are way less because I totally changed my environment to an environment where I feel happier and healthier and meaning and purpose.
And what I like about you and your story is you're not someone that's like become like a convert to Christianity and then is an evangelist, and you're just like, will you just shut up already about this? Like you go in the opposite direction, like totally anti-drinking, but that's not you. So, you've been there, you've been through social drinking, you've seen how it affects your life, and you're not saying, I'm never going to drink, it's the devil, it's the worst thing ever. No, you're not saying that. And I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people because you're a real guy and you're not, preaching this one new way that's the only way. So that's good stuff. And I'm curious to hear how it affects relationships, marriages, and your role as a father. I mean, that's what we are. I mean, this show is for dads. I'm a dad, and I have friends that I've heard their young children say, "Oh, Dad's drunk again," and it's so common here. I mean, social drinking is so common, but I don't want my kids, I personally don't like the idea of drinking more than a beer in front of my kids or losing a little bit of my wits with my kids there. I mean, I don't believe in that. But what have you seen in your experience and with all of the people that have gone through your program of how it changes or improves their relationship with their wives and kids?
Okay, awesome. So I'm immensely passionate about these two subjects. First of all, I've worked my ass off for my marriage. I have worked very hard. We're two very tumultuous individuals, hotheads, and we used to, have huge explosive times. one of the reasons why I went to change my relationship with alcohol was actually I was trying to understand the anger in our relationship and trying to understand her anger, difficult upbringing, difficult childhood, a lot of anger. And it's the anger management program that actually led me to then see, I didn't know if you know this, but coffee and alcohol, the two biggest instigators of anger. And that's what made me then take the 90 days, and everything else fell from there. That's when we stopped seeing a counselor. We didn't need a marriage counselor anymore. When you remove alcohol from your life, you're just less feisty, angry. All of those things start to disappear. And when you've removed one side of the argument, there's no argument. Like, she can shout and scream at me all day long, but if I'm not going to play, then there's nothing to play with. Me coming to the table and making the change and something huge like that massively brought her to the table. Like, this is one of my key things, my triggers, and my passion is to lead by example. And I feel that in my marriage. Like, I was standing for so long going, you must change, you must change. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to change. And so I changed, and she came running with me. It was the most beautiful thing. Now, if you want to find out more about this, and I'll send you the link, Stephen, so you can put this on, Steve, sorry. But Jen and I did a podcast and a video about our marriage, about how tough it was before, about all the problems. We absolutely open up everything. It's very powerful. Every time we meet new people who've seen it, they're like, that's one of the most amazing podcasts we've ever seen. You guys really bared all. So I would love for your group to see that, to see the stuff that we were going through, the pain it caused her, the truth, all of those things. I am immensely passionate about relationships, and I talk a lot about relationships at our events, on our podcast. It's very, very, I'm very passionate about it. I strongly believe that if you have got any problems in your marriage or in your relationship, this is the reason to do this challenge. Don't have to do it together. You lead by example. Just focus on yourself. Change yourself first. The other person will come. If they're still drinking a lot, that's cool. But you don't know who you are, especially in your marriage, until you remove this alcohol. Like, I almost want the first banner when people start Googling divorce to be, have you thought about taking a break from booze first? Like, you're just being unreasonable because you're being controlled by booze. Right. So that's what I feel about marriage. Now, our marriage is in a much, much, much deeper connected place. We're so much more reasonable with each other. She's almost removed all alcohol from her life too. We just party now and again, or rarely, or party with alcohol, I should say. So that makes for a much more sensible, loving, deep, open marriage. So that's the first thing. As a father, it's night and day. Like, more patience. I mean, could I imagine if I could give you more patience right now with your children? Wouldn't that be good? We all need so much patience to be a parent. Selflessness. Imagine I could give you more of that. Well, I can, because that's what it does. No child ever, ever, ever has enjoyed a parent with a hangover. It's just, drinking is entirely 100% selfish. It's only helping you. It doesn't help anybody else. And children have got no interest in that. Hangovers and kids don't mix. I'm saying all the right things. But here's some data to help you push this over the barrier a little bit, right? The first thing is, a binge drinking parent is 4 times more likely to have a binge drinking child. Okay? Now, if you do the whole parent thing of introducing your child to drink nice and early on, they are 4 times more likely to become a problem drinker, not just binge drinking, but problem drinker later on in life. Okay? Now, binge drinking children, on average, drink twice as much as adults. And here's the real thing. When children binge drink, the likelihood of death, rape, all of grievous bodily harm, ending up in AE goes absolutely through the roof. So in a way, and some of this stuff is, like, I don't want to hear that, or I don't care, or blah, 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 that's not me. I like to just take a pause on that and say, what makes me solidify about how I'm teaching my children, what I'm showing them? I just want to show them that it's possible to have a life that doesn't include that alcohol, or that doesn't include the drugs, that doesn't include those things. And I need to do that by leading by example. I think I'm very passionate about those two things. Would love to support anyone who's thinking about
Yeah,
doing
for
that.
sure. I mean, and I'm already thinking about, and we mentioned this briefly before we started recording, of doing some kind of challenge, one of your challenges in my own group. So got me thinking for sure. So I have a couple of friends in mind, and my first thought is, how do you send them this or tell them about this without them saying, who the fuck are you to give me this? I don't, who do you think you are? I don't have a problem. Why are you sending me this shit? Right?
Yeah. So, a couple of ways. First of all, is to lead by example. Which is the number one thing. Sign up to the program and start going, oh, wow. Now, look, if you drink one beer, Steve, for you, you're like, I hardly ever drink. I almost never drink. But you are still triggered when you're out with your mates. So there's a learning process there. Like, what happens? What is that worth to you if you didn't? Well, come and try the challenge. So I would say to you, you come and do the 90-day challenge because you want to help these 3 other people and talk about it. I'm doing this. It's amazing. Oh my God, look this. I never thought it would change this much for me. Blah, 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 blah. Especially with partners. Like if you want a partner to change, that's the best way to do it. Do it yourself. The second thing I would say is if it's strategic, then you got 2 options. One, order the book. It's our best-selling book. It went to number 1 in Amazon. It's called the 28-Day Alcohol-Free Challenge. The book is bright-colored. It is Please Pick Me Up. We spent a long time on the front cover for this. It's a major publisher over here in the UK. There's over in the US as well, Pan Macmillan. So get the book, leave it on the coffee table, invite them round. They'll pick it up. And the thing about it is, so most people, and the second part is, and this is the sneaky part, is visit our website from their phone. That's it. From the next 3 months, they will see regular adverts from us. They will see regular content from us because of our retargeting and our Facebook ads. So that's the sneaky way. And they'll start seeing it in their news feed and they'll be like, what? Why am I seeing this in my news feed? Now, 2 things to remember. One, the process of change for most people starts years before the actual action for lots of situations, especially a big, big, big behavior like drinking alcohol. So somebody who's gone out there and changed their relationship might happen 2 years prior. So 2 years you're thinking pain, ow, ooh, ow, I'm going to change, going to try, oh, blah, blah, boom, right, that's it, I'm going to stop now. That's the process of change for the majority of people. So when you suddenly turn up to your partner or friend and are like, hey, why don't you give up alcohol? That comment will be the first time they've ever thought about it, right? So allow them to have their process of change. And we've discovered this over the last 3 years of running 1 Year No Beer, 2 years officially, 3 years of running 1 Year No Beer, is that most people need some nurturing before they are ready to change their relationship with alcohol. And so our whole online system is designed to nurture them over a period of time.
Okay. And so what if you come across the person that says, you know what, this makes perfect sense, and I have no doubt that I would be a better person, a better father, a better husband, but I just don't want to do it. I love drinking so much that it's really not worth it for me to give up the fun times that I have and the feelings that I get, and I'm the life of the party. It's not. A lot of people I think are going to say, it's not really hurting things, and I know you have stats that say otherwise, but getting someone to buy into that and really trust that process is a different story. But I would imagine that's another issue, right? Like it's fun, like you know all about it, right? It's enjoyable. It's the feeling of having a cold beer in your hand is one that sends endorphins to them. They love that feeling.
Totally. So the first thing is, I'm probably just going to leave you alone and say, cool, well done. All the best, pal, because there's 2.7 billion people out there and 36% of them are drinking hazardously, and plenty of people who want to talk to me because they realize they're getting to the awareness point. And in a part of me is going to feel slightly sad for you because I know that you've got to go through the process of realizing that alcohol is causing a problem. Now, that might happen in an instant. You might get a DUI. You might accidentally turn up somewhere, or wake up in the morning and wonder where the hell you are, or think about those blackouts, or get fired from your job, or one of those pain points. And I think, what a shame that you had to get there before you realized it was a problem in your life. And having one of those events Hands up who is not, out of all of the horrible things that happen with alcohol, almost everyone turns up and says, I've been in some dangerous situations. That nearly happened. This nearly happened. We've all experienced it. I mean, ruin friendships, ruin relationships, got into sticky situations. So you've got this person or whoever's thinking, no, there's no problem in my life, has no awareness right now. And fine, you're going to take your own awareness. But if you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, maybe there is some links, then just be honest with yourself. Start looking at what these links are. What potential problems has alcohol caused in your life? What things have you missed out on? Sit and just think about it for a minute. And if you do sit and think about it in a minute and think there could be any upside, why not give it a chance? Why not give it a shot? Why not just see if I'm right?
Sure. And I love this, that you're not convincing somebody. And it reminds me of my own business, because when I ask somebody, what's the single biggest thing holding you back from having the physique or the health or the fitness level that you want, people will give me the answer, I'm just lazy. And I say, okay, good luck. I'm not here to convince you that you need to be healthy, that you need to, I'm just a lazy sack of shit. Well, okay. Next. I mean, there are a million people that say, what, I want to change. Can you please help me? And that's just it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So would you say there's, one, kind of main draw or main factor of your challenges that is responsible for really, hitting people on right between the eyes, or is it more of just a combination of accountability and the tribe and the process and all the moving parts that you have in there?
I think, if you were going to put a gun to my head and say, choose one thing, Ruari, or I'm going to pull the trigger, I would say that the community is such a massive element in the change. Now, we know this through some data as well. So people are 85% more likely to continue, therefore upgrade their program within 1 year no beer if they're in community. And that's because there's so much to be got from being around people who are making the change they're trying to make. Now, at the moment, we're in our infancy, but over the next 2-3 years, we will have 1 year no beer coach, program, and regular meetups in every town in the globe. That is the plan. And we do that through building our Weight Watchers for Alcohol model, which is effectively what we're creating. So, it's a great time to come and get involved with Wine Your Neo Beer. You get involved by signing up and coming leading by example. Over the next 3-6 months, we'll be further developing our coaching program. Two things I wanted to mention, I forgot one of them. It's bounced out my head. Oh, yes, shot back in. So we've got 2 guys now who were told, one guy did 5 years of IVF, one guy did just 2 rounds of IVF, 5 rounds of IVF. They were told they would never get pregnant naturally, and one 100 days and one 75 days into the program, both are pregnant naturally.
Wow.
This is a big one for dads out there. If alcohol is massive against your sperm count. It's massive on your swimmers. Trust me. If you want to protect those lovely balls of yours, stop losing. Yep. Right? Now, I was just going to go on to a little example of what our framework is. Let's take Ben. Ben is at home. He's alone. He's unemployed and he's miserable. And he thinks that alcohol is the solution. Right. So he's going every day and having a beer, or every couple of days and having a beer because all of this misery situation and trying to find jobs and can't quite find it. And Ben's through a friend suggests download the app. And he's like, whatever, I don't really have a problem. He looks at the app and he's like, this is quite cool. And now begins the process. And he suddenly starts to think, wait a minute, maybe alcohol's not the solution. Maybe it's the problem. And he thinks, you know what, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to do the 28-day challenge. So he signs up to the 28-day challenge and he's blown away with how much life gets better. So this is amazing. He goes and tells a bunch of friends. And because he tells his friends, he gets referral credits. Those referral credits he decides to spend on doing a mastermind. Now, our mastermind program was designed because most people go through an epiphany and they realize, holy shit, I'm not living the life I really want to live. So we created a program to help people look at the whole areas of their life, who they are, who they were when they were younger, what is it they really want to do, where's their meaning and purpose, so they can get aligned. Again, this is helping this whole person because the reason we're drinking is numbing, right? So now he does the mastermind and he's like, you know what I really want to do? I want to give back. I want to help people. So he goes and tells a bunch more people, and he gets some more referral credits. And now he decides to spend them on becoming an OYNB coach. He does his coach training, and we give him leads. So now he's revenue generating by coaching people to go through the same program he is. And he starts hosting local area meetups and actives and socials, inspiring other people to do this change. And this is the model we're effectively running at the moment / building over the next 6 to 12 months.
I mean, as an online business owner, I mean, I'm just monumentally impressed with what you've done and where you're going. It's amazing work. Yeah. So
thank you.
So your main site, oneyearnobeer.com, has all the info. Are there any other spots that you want people to find you on besides the Instagram handle you told us about?
I would just say one challenge. Look, if you've listened to this podcast and thought that's not for me, then just check out the Facebook page or check out the website. Check out the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/oneyearnobeer, or Instagram, where you'll see lots of pictures and stuff like that of people whose lives have been changed and what happened for them and what they felt about the program. It's instagram.com/oneyearnobeer. And if there's any inkling in the back of your brain about, you know what, maybe alcohol is holding me back, then I would just say one thing. Definitely go and try it yourself if you think you've got all of the program to change your relationship with alcohol. But if you truly want to change your relationship with alcohol the fastest way possible, then sign up to a program that we've spent years developing, hundreds of thousands of pounds of bringing the science together to make that impact on your brain. And that way you get to the end of the period and you know what? I think I might carry on alcohol free, as opposed to I can't wait till this challenge is over.
And after we stop recording here, I just want to chat with you a little bit about how we can incorporate your programs into my own groups. And I run challenges constantly. Obviously, the new year is coming up, a big time to make a big change. And so I'd love to work with you in some capacity to see how we can start helping more dads.
Brilliant. I'm all over that. Would love to help more dads.
Sounds good, man. Well, I appreciate your time. This has been phenomenal. Again, like I said in the beginning, not a drinker, but your message is so much bigger and you're doing so much more. So I have no doubt this is helping a lot of guys, and I appreciate your time today, Ruari.
So, and leading by example, Steve, 90 days, you're in?
I'm in.
Done. Good
yes,
lad.
Sir.
There you go. The man is leading by example.
That's it.
Which is it. Well done. So let's see who else will follow us.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.